What is going on, Laker fans? Thank you very much for tuning in, doing a little Lakers talk on this Tuesday evening. Hopefully, everybody's having a great week. Was going to post up my Lakers talk from last night. I did on 710 ESPN, but then just kind of decided why not just do a fresh one for YouTube here, and certainly got a few things that I want to get into. So, thank you for being a part of the show. As always, if you don't mind, please subscribe to the channel if you have not already subscribed. And any of these topics that you like or that you have interest in, please feel free to comment as well. Couple things I want to get into. A few things that have gone on in the last couple of days. And to be honest with you, and I know I've kind of reiterated this in the past, it's really been slow around Lakers basketball, and I think really the entire NBA, it seems like, for the last 4 weeks or so. So this, kind of hope and this thought of a lot of things moving in the offseason, certainly for the Lakers, if they could find a way to get rid of Russ, that has not been the case, and it's been incredibly quiet. But there's a few things I want to get into. Number one, preseason rankings in the Western Conference were released by NBA.com. Where the Lakers fall into that play is at the right place to pull them. I'll get into that. No deal for LeBron James as of yet. We kind of know that there was some productive meetings last Friday when it turned August 4th. And LeBron, I think it was Thursday, the first day for him to potentially sign a 2-year extension with the Lakers. What does it mean that nothing's happened yet? Does it mean anything, or is this just kind of part of the play? I'll get into that. And then kind of some of the ripple effect here of the Kevin Durant news that went down yesterday about him basically telling Joe Tsai, the owner of the Brooklyn Nets, that you got to get rid of your GM and your head coach if you want me to stick around, and how that could potentially have an effect on the Lakers with Kyrie Irving. So those are the things that I want to get into real quick. Let's start off with this one, just because this is a little bit different. This is a little bit new. These off-season power rankings on NBA.com. So, listen, I'm not delusional. I wasn't, walking around coming into this summer thinking to myself that the Lakers are, hey, just be healthy. If Anthony Davis is healthy, they're a top 3 team in the Western Conference. To be honest with you, I think that ship has sailed. I really do. I think right now, not only do you need both LeBron James and Anthony Davis to be incredibly healthy, but they also have to have incredibly productive seasons, and specifically I'm talking about Anthony Davis. And then you also need to find a way to trade Russ and go get some kind of players back. If that player is not Kyrie Irving, maybe it's a couple role players like Miles Turner and Buddy Hield. Maybe it's some kind of deal with the Utah Jazz that was reported, some 3-team deal between the Jazz and Knicks and the Lakers, where you could land a Bogdanovich and a Jordan Clarkson, those types of players. So just use that as an example. But certainly, if you're coming back with the same roster, and I'm assuming this is what these power rankings are based off of, these preseason power or off-season power rankings are based off of, just looking at the roster that the Lakers currently have, that's what they're basing it off of. So instead of me starting with the number 1 team in the NBA and working my way down, I'm going to actually start with the worst in the Western Conference, because the Lakers are closer to the bottom than they are to the top. So the 5 worst teams in the Western Conference, they're not surprises. Each one of these teams are in rebuild mode. The San Antonio Spurs, the Houston Rockets, that's 15 and 14. The Thunder are at 13. The Sacramento Kings are at number 12. That's probably the one team that always is trying to win. They just don't know how to. The Utah Jazz, we know what's going on with them. They're ranked at number 11. They're in not complete rebuild mode yet. We're going to see what happens with Donovan Mitchell, but they're obviously starting that process. And then you got the Portland Trailblazers at number 10, who added Jeremy Grant in the offseason. I think Gary Payton II went there as well. So those are the 5-6 worst teams in the Western Conference. That's what NBA.com, those are the teams that they have ranked there. All of them are either rebuilding or they're in some type of transition, or who the hell knows where their franchise is going. Number 9, the Los Angeles Lakers. So think about that for a quick second. I know they were 33 and 49 last season. I didn't think there was going to be really all that much noise in the offseason, specifically with who they can go get in the free agent market. They went out and got Lonnie Walker the fourth. Thomas Bryant joined the roster as well. They're obviously hoping Kendrick Nunn can kind of have a bounce back and eventually get back on this roster. Damian Jones, another player like that. But there really wasn't a player that you sat back and you said, Juan Toscano Anderson. There wasn't a player that you thought, wow, that's a game changer. Lakers are going to hope that Frank Vogel being out, a new fresh voice in Darvin Ham, they definitely got younger. They're going to hope that that's going to be kind of the foundation of the Lakers moving forward. But number 9 in your offseason rankings, Laker fans, it's up to you where do you want to put them. You can, this is just a guess. You could put them wherever. If somebody thinks, no, I think they're top 7. I think they're top 5. I think they're 10th. Whatever you put them. I think this just kind of shows you where the Lakers are. So I'm not really arguing, hey, the Lakers are 9, they should be 8, or they should be 7, or they should be 10th. It's more just kind of showing the reality of what the NBA thinks right now of the Los Angeles Lakers. Number 9 is the play-in tournament. Number 9 is assuming that Anthony Davis can be one of the best players in the league again. That's actually, I think, the key question that they have here on their breakdown. Number 9 means you have LeBron James and Anthony Davis on your team. And I know Bron's going to turn 38 by the time we get to December or so. But number 9 is far down the freaking list. And number 9 is also assuming Russ is on this roster. And that the team that the Lakers have right now is just not good enough to make noise to where they're in that top 7 or that top 6. And I think there's some reasons, obviously towards that. But look at the teams that they have in front of the Lakers. The Pelicans they have at number 8. The Minnesota Timberwolves they have at number 7. The Dallas Mavericks they have at number 6. Number 5, they have the Memphis Grizzlies. So let me just kind of stop right there. I haven't even got into some of the other teams that have had injured players like Jamal Murray, like Michael Porter Jr., like Kawhi Leonard, like Paul George. Some of those other guys that we know are on a couple other rosters that you just assume that are going to improve. The Pelicans got better, and they look like a team that's up and coming. The Minnesota Timberwolves made it to the playoffs last year and put up a pretty good fight in the first round against Memphis, and then added Rudy Gobert in the offseason. Whether you think that's a great addition or not, certainly he's going to help on the defensive side, what he does on offense. So just right out the gate, looking at the Lake Show, they got teams in front of them. Dallas made it to the Western Conference Finals. They're at number 6. Memphis, no question about it, up-and-coming team. They're ready to take on every other team out there. It just kind of shows to just be a part of the top 5 conversation in the Western Conference. That ain't easy. And they don't have the Lakers at number 5 or number 6 or number 7. They got the Lakers at number 9. Denver, they have at number 4, which I'm not really against, to be honest with you. I think they're going to continue to get better as long as they're healthy. They added KCP in the offseason as well. The Clippers added John Wall. They pretty much bought back all their main pieces from the offseason. You got to assume they're going to obviously be a lot better with Kawhi and PG. Then the Phoenix Suns and the Golden State Warriors round out your number 2 and your number 1. So I'll throw this out there to Laker fans. If you're ranking the Lakers in the Western Conference right now, and just be realistic. I mean, kind of try to take the emotion out of it. If you're being realistic of where the Lakers should be in the Western Conference, do you agree with NBA.com at putting them at number 9? That they're not just a play-in tournament team, but they got to win 2 games to just make the playoffs. And that's assuming that Anthony Davis is healthy. It's assuming Bron is around. And it's assuming Russell Westbrook is also still on the roster. So comment below and let me know what you think on that. I kind of find it fascinating. I will say this. I think if Anthony Davis is the real deal and the guy is healthy and he plays 70 games, I think they're better than their number 9 seed. Now, do I think they're number 5 or 4? No, I don't. They're probably in that 6 or 7 range. Now, if they can go out and trade Russ and get Kyrie Irving, that's a completely different conversation. if they could go out and trade Russ and even get just 2 role players. Like I said, some of these guys from the Jazz or a couple of these guys from the Indiana Pacers, I think that's a different conversation. I think a lot of this does rely on if Russ is on the team or is he not. And I think for everybody, it just sounds so much better for everybody if Russ is somewhere else. And for Russ, too. I'm not saying that just from a Laker perspective. I think, obviously, for Russ's, just for his future in the NBA, he'd be much better off served without being on this Lakers roster. So let me know what you think. I think the Lakers are better than 9. Do I think they're probably around that 7, 8 spot? Yeah, probably around there. Do I think they're better than a 6 seed? No, 6 is probably the best that you can get on this roster. And that might be, a pipe dream just because of how stacked the Western Conference is and how other teams are getting healthier. And the Lakers, certainly are going to have to try to figure out when Anthony Davis is in that lineup how they could just be a better team, more effective team, and everything else. So that's kind of my thoughts there on the NBA rankings right there. The other story that I did want to touch on here for a quick second. So this happened on Thursday. Rich Paul, LeBron met with the Lakers brass, and they had a productive extension talk with Rob Pelinka in the front office. So whatever that means. Dave McMenamin of ESPN was talking about that, and his exact tweet, LeBron James, Representative Rich Paul, Clutch, met with Lakers VP Basketball of Operations and Rob Pelinka on Thursday regarding James' eligible contract extension. Paul told ESPN the discussion was productive and both sides will continue a dialogue. Put that to the side here. If he signs the extension, if he doesn't, if he waits, we really know his options. His options are don't do anything and just become an unrestricted free agent, sign a 1-year deal with a player option for the second year, or just sign a 2-year extension and ink up $97 million. I think Bron's going to be around with the Lakers for a little bit, but I want to also play my little radio/YouTube game for entertainment purposes. As you guys know, I've said this plenty of times in the past, I like when star players don't really give in too much to the organization, that they don't give them that much security, that they don't make them feel like, hey, no matter what happens, win, loss, whatever the case is, whatever we do as a front office, this dude is locked up for the next couple of years, and we feel comfortable that he's locked up. I like when LeBron in the past used to play that game with the Cleveland Cavaliers and be like, I'll give you a 1+1. Let's see what Dan Gilbert and the rest of this front office is going to do. And if I don't like what they're doing, I'm always a legitimate threat away, because I had a player option in that next year of walking away. Do I want to see LeBron James do that? I kind of do. I kind of like that. However, before he even signs an extension or a 1+1, why even give the Lakers that right now? Why? I mean, there's no rush. The Lakers, that deal is always going to be on the table for Bron no matter what. I don't think that's going to certainly go away. However, what could also be on the table is LeBron James saying, like, hey, I know you guys want to keep these draft picks, and I respect that. Obviously, 2027, 2029, who the hell knows where this Lakers franchise is by then? They can be significant and important picks. I get that you got to worry about your future. I'm not telling you not to worry about your future. But you got me and Anthony Davis here, and we have a window that is closing every single day. And if you guys didn't believe that window was still open, then nobody would be offering LeBron an extension, or maybe you're shopping Anthony Davis to see what you can get for him. So obviously the Lakers believe if everybody's healthy, a lot of things got to go their way, that they still got a shot. Don't let those draft picks get in the way of improving this roster. I don't feel like the Lakers have felt like there's a pressure about time. I feel like the Lakers have felt that, hey, we could eventually get this done and figure it out, but we don't have to do it right now. That's how I felt the Lakers have approached this offseason so far. But there will come a time where push is going to come to shove, and the Lakers are going to have some decisions to make. And if it's the cost of 2 first-round picks to move Russell Westbrook for whatever package that is out there, Do your absolute best to get the best deal that you can. But I don't think you could come back and just have the same exact team and have Russ on this roster by the time you get to training camp. I really don't. As you guys know, I connect a lot with Jovan Buha of The Athletic. He comes on the show quite often. And I'm going to read something that he had out here. This was in one of his mailbags that he does for The Athletic. There's a sense among some that training camp is a soft deadline to move Westbrook. If he's on the roster in late September, there'll be a massive off-court distraction with the media asking about his future, his relationship with James, and the organization. Harris' vision of his role, or Ham's vision of his role and responsibilities. I'm with Jovan on this. Can you imagine come training camp? Can you imagine come training camp that the Lakers are in a position potentially to start training camp and Russ is still there? Can you imagine the amount of questions that are going to come at LeBron James about Russ, at Anthony Davis about Russ, at Darvin Ham about Russ, at Russ about Russ? Let's just say it probably won't get off to a fresh start, a good look. And I think it puts everybody in a weird position, an awkward position. So this leads me I circle back around to Braun's extension. Could he have just signed it right there on Thursday? Of course he could have. Could he have? He's had plenty of time to think about it. Hey, no, I'm good. Let's sign the extension. I got my family here. I want to spend the next couple of years here in LA, and then we'll see where I'm at after that and see where Bronny is after that. Or at least he could have just signed a 1+1 so that he has this upcoming season guaranteed, the following year guaranteed, and then it's up to him on that third year. But he's just kind of let it bake a little bit here. And I'm okay with that. And I hope the Lakers get Kyrie Irving, and I hope a lot of other things shake out. But if they don't get Kyrie, they can't stop, in my opinion. Do the best you can to negotiate, but you're going to have to eventually move Russ off this roster. That's my thoughts on it. You can leave some comments below of what you think on that front. Final thing I want to get into, Laker fans, here real quick is that news that came out about Kevin Durant yesterday. So Kevin Durant is, to say the least, a very, very interesting NBA player. And he's one of the best players in the league. No one will certainly question just how great of a player he is, and obviously one of the top Hall of Famer, one of the top players, already a two-time Finals MVP and a two-time champion. However, left the Oklahoma City Thunder, went to the Golden State Warriors, was a part of a team that was incredibly organized, and it was all about the team, and Kevin Durant got to beat KD, and just there were other weapons, and it made his game so much easier, and really he just excelled like no tomorrow. Decided to leave and went to the Brooklyn Nets. Brooklyn paid him. Brooklyn basically paid him for the first year as he had his injury. Accommodated to go get Steve Nash, if you guys remember that. Accommodated to go get Steve Nash, and as being the head coach. And there was an article yesterday, or a tweet that came out from Shams Charania of The Athletic, and the idea was that Kevin Durant has basically asked ownership, that's Joe Tsai, or was already met with them, kind of giving them an ultimatum that the franchise basically needs to choose between him or Coach Steve Nash and General Manager Sean Marks. You guys all know the story because it was a big story in the NBA. I don't need to get into all the details of it. The only thing I really care about is how can this affect the Lakers? A couple different ways. One way is maybe this now forced, because Joe Tsai, the owner of the Brooklyn Nets, came out with a tweet yesterday and said, "Our front office and coaching staff have my support. We will make decisions in the best interests of the Brooklyn Nets." So Joe Tsai, it sounds like, is saying, "That's cool, KD, that you want me to fire my coach and my GM," which is actually not that uncommon in sports. If you have a star, you usually pick the star over your front office or your head coach. We see that all the time. That, to me, is not too much of a shock. But just kind of the way the last couple of years have gone for the Brooklyn Nets, how much control players have had within that organization of making decisions and giving their input. I'm talking about James Harden, KD, and Kyrie Irving. Now Harden is gone. He's in Philly. Kyrie, who the hell knows what he ends up doing, and then KD has already requested a trade. I got a feeling Joe Tsai is probably not siding with Kevin Durant, who has 4 years and $198 million left on his contract. This is how it affects the Lakers. If KD eventually gets traded and he goes to the Boston Celtics, I don't want to see that because I don't want to see the Boston Celtics get better. If KD gets traded and goes to the Phoenix Suns, I don't want to see that because the Lakers already have the Golden State Warriors. Now you're going to add KD to the Western Conference again. And it just makes it that much tougher to get out of the Western Conference. So whatever happens with Kevin Durant could have an effect on the Lakers. The key question for me is the dude get moved and then it helps Kyrie get to the Lakers? That's all I care about. So this is the first time we've had a little bit of movement, it seems like, in the last 4 weeks when it comes to Kevin Durant, when it comes to potentially him getting moved, and then, obviously the ripple effect that would have on the rest of the NBA, specifically the Los Angeles Lakers. I'm at a point where I feel like KD will still get moved, but the Brooklyn Nets don't have to do anything that they don't want to. If I'm the Brooklyn Nets, I ain't accommodating anything to Kevin Durant unless I'm in a position that I feel like is in the best interest of my franchise. He signed a 4-year, $98 million, or that's what he's got left on his contract, is 4 years and $198 million. You don't have to want to be here, but we have you under contract, and unless we get the right offer, why the hell would they trade him? Now, selfishly, from a Laker perspective, I hope he does get traded to a team that isn't in the Western Conference and that doesn't have an overwhelmingly effect on NBA odds. And I hope then that opens up the door for the Lakers to try to go get Kyrie. If it ain't Kyrie, some of these other players that are out there as well. All right, Lake fans, that's all I got. I appreciate you guys kind of tuning in on this kind of random Lakers talk, but I wanted to do this for YouTube. Always appreciate you guys being on this channel and helping grow this channel. And as soon as we get some more Lakers information, I will get my you-know-what back on here. Thank you for being a part of the show tonight. Please subscribe to the channel and have a great rest of your evening.